Hi, my name is Sun Yi. I'm the founder of Night Owls, which is a branding agency that focuses on personal brands. And today I'm sitting with Ryan Serhant, who's probably the most famous broker I know.
Really?
And you've built a big personal brand for yourself. So I want to kind of maybe let's start out by asking you, what was your journey like from you started a $1 million listing and you built like a powerful personal brand. And so can you kind of talk about that journey and how you switched to where you are now?
Yeah, one of the big keys for me, and my intention was never to go out and build a personal brand. Everything I know about building brand, both for a product and for me personally, I've learned through trial by fire, right? Learning through kind of product market fit. How do you build a brand for a house? How do you build a brand for a new development tower that we're selling? How do I build a brand for myself so that I wake up every day with new leads in my inbox? And a lot of that work was done in part out of cost efficiencies. Like if you have tons of money, you don't need to build brand, you can buy brand. There's a big difference between buying brand and building brand, which is why there's so much emphasis put behind, collaborations and influencer partnerships, because you can earn brand that way, even if you have to buy a little bit of it. So for me, I was in real estate, but I was no one knew me. There was no value proposition to working with Ryan. There was 80,000 real estate agents in New York City. I was one of them and probably one of the least experienced. And then $1 Million Listing happened. And that immediately became a brand legitimizer overnight, because NBC Universal basically said, hey, we looked at every real estate agent in New York City. 3 of you are good enough to be on an international television show. Whether they were right or wrong, that's the message that is sent out to the world. And what that really taught me was, okay, it all comes down to the story. What is the story you are telling to your audience? And the story that $1 Million Listing told was Ryan Serhant is one of the greatest real estate agents in New York City, if not the United States, if not the world. And so people hear that story, but then you have to back it up with proof. And that really was that nuance and kind of that framework that we worked on towards kind of building out the personal brand with proof points. So, you could sit here on a podcast all day long and just talk. That's fine. But if you don't have those legitimizers and those proof points, and which for me were sales, right? Doing deals, which added to the storytelling, which added to that consistent content, which helped create that memorable personal brand that I then built, one through the TV show and then back then through social, and really using the power of YouTube, early on.
Yeah. So I've been following your journey like from day one, from first season.
Oh, wow.
And when you started your YouTube channel, I was like, oh, wow. Yeah. Because at that time, none of the real estate agents were really doing YouTube or kind of things like that. So I was like, wow.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I noticed about you is even that season 1, you were riding around that purple scooter. You always do things differently, right?
He knows. He watched. Wow, there you go. That's a fan tidbit right there.
And also when you do open houses, I always see you do something wild, something different, right? Mm-hmm. And when you started this brokerage, you did it totally different than
yes.
You have this thing that you go outside the norm, right? And that's kind of, I think, your what's behind your success. What do you think is something that made you different? Because there's a bunch of real estate agents on $1 Million Listing. None of them are kind of where you are. So what do you think set you apart? What made you start the YouTube channel from the beginning?
Well, based on what you just told me about myself, it's that I'm crazy and I try way too hard. I don't know. I think I've always, I fight against boredom and complacency every day. Mm-hmm. I never got into real estate to become a realtor. I got into real estate so I could pay my rent. My goal was to pay rent. I need to stay in New York City. New York City is the greatest city in the world. I want to stay in this city. I think most people who get into sales, used to get into sales to pay bills. Now, I think we've done a pretty great job of creating this great gig economy of salespeople who realize that, wait a minute, I'm not just getting into sales to pay bills. I'm getting into sales to build an amazing life. I want a life that I can control. I want to work my butt off and make a lot of money, or I don't want to work at all and I'll make no money. That's fine. I understand the risk and the reward there. But I've also always believed that hard work puts you in a position where good luck can find you. I want to be lucky as much as I can.
Yeah.
You look at any super successful person, any person with a major personal brand, like, they got there because they did that one thing and made them super lucky. But then you pull that layer back and you realize that they just worked really, really, really hard till they got to the point where good luck was able to find them. And so for me, it's about how do I create a framework where I can make my awareness as accessible to the masses as possible. So one of the things we teach in Sell It Like Serhant, which is our membership community for salespeople, which has like 21,000 members now in 110 countries. And we have a program in there. It's called our Pro Brand Strategy Program, which kind of really teaches the blueprint one-on-one, like we work with you one-on-one, for building your brand that is very, very authentic to you, with a calendar that's authentic to you, with storytelling devices and a social audit that's authentic to you. Because I think everybody's a personal brand. Even looking at you got the hat on, right? Flat brim, you got the glasses, you got your thing, right? People know you, you know, and you've created that thing that makes you memorable because you attack it with consistent content, and then you shout every success you have from the mountaintop. That's kind of like a 1, 2, 3 kind of brand strategy plan, really, really, really broken down very simply.
So, like, why did you start this program? Did you notice something in the marketplace where, like, there are all these people trying to build their personal brand, but they're doing it wrong? Like, did you see people struggling? What made you want to start this and teach this, I guess?
Oh, I because everybody else was spending money on leads and making these other companies really rich. You know, and I was looking at all these other firms, and I was like, wow, these companies make so much money. Where'd they get all this money? And you see that they make it on the backs of salespeople spending their hard-earned cash on lead flow. And the lead flow is then not guaranteed. It's incredibly cold. And then you're either buying the leads or you're paying massive referral fees on it. And then you just kind of become a hamster in a wheel. And you get used to that. And it becomes kind of this like, well, I don't know how to do my business otherwise. And so I've always believed that there's a much better way. I mean, do you have any idea how much money do you think I've ever spent on buying leads for myself as a salesperson? Zero. I'll help you. It's zero, okay?
I'm here trying to like calculate.
Zero. I mean, listen, if you factor in, all the events and the networking events and the dinners and the things, then sure, right? But that's just a part of doing business. That's the work, right? And that's an investment, exactly. And I realized that we had kind of, by accident, built out this amazing framework for helping all salespeople build their brands so they can generate leads in their sleep, so they can slowly stop buying leads, so they can get to a point where, wow, I'm not just a salesperson, I'm an enterprise. And that's what we realized we can really, really help people do. And we started it kind of one person by one person in 2019. And we've perfected it over the last, oh my goodness, almost 5 years. And really turned it into something that has changed the lives of every salesperson who works with us, both by helping them make more money, helping them spend less money, and helping them become a known entity with a really clear know, like, and trust factor that means everything in the world of sales.
I mean, that's kind of how I feel, because I've been watching your content and things like that. So I feel like, even though this is the first time I'm meeting you,
trust me?
I feel like I know you, and
But
people always, yes, like I immediately get that. Oh, I know Ryan's like this. I know his personality is like this, and I just feel like that's people at the end of the day. Like it's. Like, I feel like there are a lot of talented people out there.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, like, do I trust this person? And that's why we always ask for referrals, right? Like, when I get clients to referral, like, most of the selling is already done for me because that person came through somebody that, that they trust me.
Yeah, that's that first impression.
Exactly. So before you were talking about, like, generating leads. So one of the things in this world, personal brand world, that I saw is some people have like tons of followers, and they don't necessarily it doesn't necessarily translate to like sales or business.
Sure.
Some people might have a smaller following, but it actually they're killing it, right?
Yeah.
So do you think there's anything to like making content or building a brand where it can actually translate to business rather than just a vanity metrics or something like that?
Yeah, the math is content to community, right, to commerce. people talk about, just Google it, right? Content to commerce, content to commerce, content to commerce.
Yeah.
And the people that forget that middle piece are the people you're talking about right now. They're the people who have big followings and they put out a book and no one buys it, or they make a T-shirt and no one buys it, right? Because it's like, you follow you could go follow any influencer right now, and if all of a sudden tomorrow they're hawking a toaster, maybe if you were literally in the car to go buy a toaster, maybe you would buy that toaster, but the chances are pretty slim that you're ever going to do it because there's no community element that's attached to that makes you feel like you're a part of something bigger. Like even if I went and started selling ties, like maybe people would buy them, but I haven't built my community around ties. I built my community around helping great salespeople increase their life. And so you've got to keep that community element into it. And whether it's a community membership program or you're doing it on Discord or just you are the most engaged person in your comments. Like when we first started doing YouTube, one of the most important things to me, and I harped on this with my team, was when it goes live, the video goes live, you're in the comments. You're commenting to everybody. I want everyone to feel like, whether it was me typing it or Adam or Adrian or Diego or Cody, like writing out the comments, that everyone feels like, oh, this is why I watch content on YouTube. This is why I watch a video on YouTube Shorts. This is why I watch TikTok. Because on TV, my comments are in my head and the people that are on TV are not engaging with me. Here, Ryan just commented on my same thought that I just had at minute 152, which goes a long way towards creating that organic, engagement. And then people want to support you.
Yeah.
Like why do people buy anything? You see like long lines for Taylor Swift. You see long lines for, new products in Soho. And that engagement then turns into huge support. And people willingly buy it, not just because it's cool, but because they're actually supporting the mascot.
Yeah.
I
think Taylor Swift does that too. Actually, I heard she once stayed for 13 hours signing autographs. Yeah. Because she really, invests into her community. And I think that's so smart, going from content to community to commerce, because a lot of I'm sure a lot of agents, they just post a listing where they're trying to go straight to sales. Yeah. And what I found is I use Instagram stories a lot. Sure. And what I found is whenever I do something engaging, let's say I'm a real estate agent and I go, hey, what is the reason why you're not buying or selling a house this year? And then I'll ask a question and people they put all their answers and I'll share that. And that kind of gets people going. And what people don't realize is every single one of those answers is actually a lead. Because they've either told you why they're not buying a house or why they are thinking about buying a house, but they have an additional question. Yeah. It's a genius idea to do a story right now and put up a poll saying, for anybody who thought about buying a house this year and didn't, how come you didn't? Now, all of a sudden, that's an employee survey, right? Everyone's angry. So they're all going to tell, rates went up. If you get 20 people who write in, you all of a sudden just got 20 leads from people who didn't buy a house this year but were going to, because those are the people that wanted to write in. Yeah. Anybody, we could go out and say, hey, anyone who's thinking about buying a house in 2024 but's nervous, right here, I'm curious, why are you nervous? And then you're posting, one example or two example, but now you just got 52 leads. Yeah. Right? And they're sharing it out this way. Yeah. Raphael, can you make sure I do that right after this? That's a great idea, actually. I'm going to do that. I'm literally going to do that right after this. Yeah, because it starts the conversation. You're starting to build a relationship, and eventually it's going to turn to lead. Because people like talking. Yeah. I also think when you teach, I remember I saw your post where you talked about the 1% down, I think Zillow or Redfin did or something like that. You gave your opinion. Yes, I did give my opinion strongly. I think when you do that, when you give your opinion or teach something, people always come back and they always ask you more questions. They might come back and be like, hey, so Ryan, what should I do? Should I wait? Yeah. Should I, not do the 1%? And that now turns into conversation. And you're built, that's how, I guess that's the act of building the community, right? Yeah, you want people to, listen, how do you build trust passively? You've got to be authentic and you've got to be real. Mm-hmm. You got to be open and honest with people. You got to admit mistakes. You got to talk about things you like, things you don't like. You got to make mistakes, then you got to own it. Yeah. You got to say, hey guys, I put out a video 2 days ago. I was way wrong. It's like when you're with a client and you take them to a house and you're like, what do you think about this house? If you don't like it, tell them. The salespeople that people don't like are the ones who say, buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it, buy it. Whether it's a car or real estate or insurance or I don't know. That's such a good point. I feel like a lot of people I talk to also are afraid to post something, their opinion or something, because they're afraid that it's wrong. Because they don't want to go back and say, "Oh, I was wrong." Like it's so hard for people to say I was wrong.
Yeah, but I think honestly, one of the sexiest things you can do in business is owning when you're wrong, because everybody knows it. Yeah. So you're either quiet about it or you own it, and then you move on. Yeah. Right? It's a sign of maturity. It's a sign of being a professional. No one's perfect, and everybody knows that. But saying, "Hey, guess what? I called that wrong." Yeah. You know, I think is a big thing. And I think part of my personal brand too isn't just that I do crazy open houses and dress up in costumes and all that stuff. It's that I do try really hard, and I think outside the box, and I'm willing to get really creative, and I'm willing to use media and new forms of media to generate business for properties in a way that people just have never done before. The content to community commerce process for sales, let alone real estate sales, is something that I think we really worked hard to pioneer, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Yeah.
Lastly, I just want to. This program, the Pro Brand Strategy, is not just for real estate agents. Just to confirm, it's for anyone who wants to build a personal brand.
Yeah, that's been, I think, kind of the coolest thing about the program is that we have so many people joining from around the world in different languages who don't sell real estate. They sell everything. They sell. We've had Formula E race car drivers who are joining to figure out how to increase their brand awareness in, Asian Formula E, and they need to sell advertisements on their car. We've had authors, we've had, orthodontists, we've had piano salespeople, obviously car sales, mortgage sales, kind of everything that's in kind of the luxury space, private jet, everything. Because I just don't think there's a program like this that helps people as an investment, right? And I think the biggest part of it is it's not a cost, right? It's a savings. Think about all the money you spend right now on generating business. You're a salesperson, you got to go generate business. Do the math. Talk to your accountant, your bookkeeper, look at your bank statement. How much money have you really spent generating business instead of building business? And our program encourages you and helps you and pushes you to build your business to a point where it is a pure savings for your career.
Yeah. I also think that if you're investing into your personal brand, you're essentially investing into you, and that's gonna stay with you for the rest of your life.
It's like education, right? It's like, you don't have to go to college, but if you do and you get through it and you do well, you can't give it back. Yeah. Like it's with you forever. And
from your brand, I feel like other agents who haven't built a brand necessarily, like their only revenue source is being an agent. But you've been able to branch out. You have your Seller Like Serhant program. You're an author. You also do public speaking, and you have all these other ventures.
Yeah,
and that's
I have
all
tree branches to my oak tree. There's branches.
Yeah, and you're able to do that because you built an audience. You built the personal brand. Yeah, and you can. Whereas in somebody who hasn't built a personal brand kind of has to stay in that lane and don't have the opportunity to branch out.
Yes, agreed. Well, thanks for coming.
Awesome. Thank you for your time. I'm a big fan. Pleasure meeting you.
Good to meet you, man. Thanks for coming down to our little podcast basement down here.